There we go.
Welcome back to Class on Grass Podcast, Season 3, Episode 6.
We are back right now, back in the studio after a week off,
Yes.
which was kind of a much needed break, We were behind on things with the podcast and things with soccer and school and all that.
Yes.
So there's lots to get done as we came to the close of our quarter. But now that that is over, we are fully committed to bringing the podcast to you guys every week. And yeah, it should be good. Getting right into it, we have a kind of a lot to cover. Considering, I think we'll more lean towards what happened this past week, but there is a lot that kind of bleeds into last week as well.
Yeah.
That we'll be talking about. But starting off strong, every single podcast, no matter what. First off, Dom, hello. Paul, hello. Thank you boys for joining.
Always there.
Anyone else who's in the stream right now, thank you for being here. Feel free to put questions out, do any of that kind of stuff. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify right now, first off, I'm sorry that you haven't been able to listen to the past two podcasts. We've been trying to figure out how to get the live streams posted. But we've got that all sorted out. So now you'll be able to listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts after the podcast is done streaming. And if you are listening, thank you. Feel free to join us next time live. And yeah, let's get right to it. Also, good afternoon, Eli.
Yeah.
It's great to have the boys in here. But yeah, starting out strong again with the 6th episode of season 3. The Sonny of the week this week goes to Ricardo Pepi. What a fantastic player.
Yes.
I mean, he's done wonders in that number 9 position. I know there was a lot of talk about, is Josh Sargent doing well enough? Do we have a good number 9?
Do we have
I know Sonny's getting mad when we're saying, is Josh Sargent doing well enough? Fellow Ginger himself. But yeah, I mean, we obviously had a lot of people that were switching between Josh Sargent, Jesse Zardes, Daryl Dike, Pflock, previously known as Sabachu, I believe.
Yeah.
And then obviously now Ricardo Pepi, who seems to be taking this spot by storm. 3 goals in his last 2 games, including the game winner in each, I believe. Is that true? 2 game winners?
Yeah, there's that Honduras game. Was it Honduras?
It was a game winner.
He had the game-winning header there, and then just recently against Jamaica, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had a brace. And U.S. are top of the table now.
Yeah,
8 points.
8 points. Well, I think we're like tied top. We're joint top.
Yeah.
And
like goal differential, we're up.
Yeah.
We're like +5 goal differential or something.
And yeah, we obviously have 2 more games in this window, Panama and Costa Rica. And I believe that if we want to continue our form, we would need to get 6 points out of this window minimum, ideally 7. Although it does look like the team's turning around well. And 2 fantastic finishes from the young lad of FC Dallas. The first one being a really good header, or the first one being a really good guided ball off of a cross that would guided into the bottom right, and the second one was a header that went into the bottom left. So yeah, I'm really happy with how he's playing.
And then also Brendan Aronson, we have to mention. He has 5 goals, 4 assists in 11 games for the U.S.
Have you seen his brother?
Yeah.
Paxton. What a great guy he is.
2 goals in the MLS now.
Dom said, can you guys talk about Brad Fuel? What are his ambitions, and is he tactically better than Pep? If you guys don't know, Brad Fuel is the assistant coach of Providence Academy.
Ah, yes.
In the IMAC. We did triumph them this week. They were what was it, Tuesday?
No, last week, yeah.
Tuesday. We did triumph the IMAC Conference Championship, tying Blake on our home field. It was a great day for the boys of the Glass and Grass podcast. Sutton being the manager of the team, got to film it. And yeah, I mean, thoughts on Brad Fuel? I think he has some work if he wants to come to the level of Pep. Obviously, high school coach. Man City coach. It's not far off, but there's still some work to be done.
Some say high school's better than the Prem, but
it's
everyone's
a tough
opinion.
One. It's a tough one there. Paul said Pepe needs to leave MLS ASAP. Yeah, I mean,
we hear a bunch of rumors.
So he's actually trained with Bayern.
Yeah.
So what it was
because Dallas have that.
So yeah, Dallas have that connection where they kind of send guys over, and he trained with Bayern like 2 years ago or something, and they were like, apparently the Bayern coaches were like, oh, he has enough quality to play in the first team here, like right now.
Yeah.
And He obviously went back, playing with FC Dallas, but I think, that connection is going to continue to prosper. And there's a chance he moves to Bayern. I don't really know where else he would go, considering there's.
I heard Roma, I think.
Yeah. Well, also, I can't. I'm blanking on name. Who went to Roma this past year?
Tammy Abraham.
Outside back, no, from the MLS.
Oh, Brian Reynolds.
Yeah, Brian Reynolds.
Yeah.
And wasn't he also an FC Dallas player?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably why the Roma.
There's probably just connections.
It's like connections here, connections there. But yeah, I was looking at an Instagram post and I was like looking at the top 10 most likely players to go, and he was only like 9th. Like there was like 8 other players in the MLS that were looking to go to Europe faster than him, and I don't really see how that works. But one thing I was actually super surprised about was Caden was like 2.
Really?
But it's not his performances recently. You can't say that they're not doing as well. He's just not getting as much time with Red Bulls. He subbed in the last game, but he's not getting as much time. But I mean, I think it's fairly obvious he's already signed with Leipzig, so he's gonna go.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see how he does there.
So the teams that actually Pepe has confirmed, like there are like the rumors that teams are looking for him, they are true. The teams are that he listed: Wolfsburg, Ajax, AC Milan, Bayern Munich, Bologna, and Udinese.
It's often.
I like Ajax for him, actually.
I was gonna say it's often Bundesliga or Serie A. We're seeing that emergence of Serie A with
especially for
Tanner
US,
Tessman
US
and
players,
Gianluca Busio and Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
But
and McKennie.
Yeah, obviously. Though, like the Eredivisie is one we don't see as often.
Mm-hmm.
We've had like players go over there every once in a while. Like it's similar with like the Swiss league, where you have PFOC playing for young boys.
Yeah.
You have like the occasional guy who goes over there, but it would be nice to see him go to Ajax. I also think he's that kind of player who would kind of prosper at Ajax. It's a hard comparison to say he's like Zlatan Ibrahimovic. But he does have he's a very like tall build, muscular guy for 18-year-old. Kind of does resemble Zlatan, finishes really well. He's able to get that little bit of pace out in front of someone, but he's not fast. He's just got that muscle and that little turn of pace. So I do kind of compare him, and I think he could definitely do well.
I think like also just based on how they develop young players and their reputation, even if he goes to Ajax and then Eli says they have Aller, who's on great form right now, who was the West Ham striker. I think he could also, if he goes to Ajax, he could go on loan anyway to somewhere like Bayern.
Yeah, well, I mean, and there could even be a reversal of that. And Eli said in the comments, if he goes to Bayern, he should go out on loan at least once.
Exactly.
So, like, I do think that there's a possibility that he goes to a club and he goes out on loan, whether that be Ajax or Bayern. I think he could go either route. He could go to Ajax and then go out on loan. He could play at Ajax for 6 months and then go out on loan to Bayern with a loan option to buy to see how he does.
Yeah.
And that could be a more secure way to say he's moving to Europe. He's going to get development. We don't know if he's going to prosper at Bayern, but we're going to give him the opportunity to fall back on Ajax.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be another opportunity there. And Ajax could flip him for some good money.
I definitely say that Honduras game was a turning point because Sargent did not have a good game.
Yeah.
I remember he got subbed out. Pepe stayed in the whole time. He started.
Sargent's just a different player.
Yeah, but now we see, Pepe's scoring, 18 years old, kind of like Pulisic was last qualifying round for the for the 2018 World Cup, and then now we see Pepe emerging, and I feel like that could be like the same story almost.
Yeah. And I know people are saying, like, I've heard rumors, or Dom said I've heard rumors Pepe was going to go to Venezia with Busio. And I was just thinking, like, if you think about all the players that have transferred over, Tessman and Pepe and, like, some other guys who are homegrowns now in that FC Dallas system were all on, like, the same U15 FC Dallas team at one point.
It just must have been unreal.
They must have been so good. Like, incredible. Also, how do you rate Tanner Tessman and how he's going to develop over in Serie A? Because obviously, I don't know if you know, but Busio has been getting a start every game, every single game. But Tessman's only been coming on as a sub, and I'm wondering. I mean, he didn't even get that much time over at Dallas. Like he would like frequently come on as a sub for FC
So, yeah.
Dallas. So like I don't really know. It's not like anything has changed really, but I don't really know how he's going to develop.
I mean, that was a surprising one in that wave of U.S. players going to Europe. I was like, Tessman, I remember him coming off the bench, like you said. So I was surprised he went. Obviously, they think he's good enough. And,
Yeah.
you know, even if he's coming off the bench at Venezia, it's still probably a step up from coming off the bench at FC Dallas anyway.
Yeah. Dom and or Eli and Paul said some say the U15 Dallas team was the one that beat the U.S. women's national team. I actually wouldn't be surprised. Like they were such.
They could have been on that team.
They were
actually.
such a good
Yeah.
FC Dallas team. Like for DA, like they. I mean, incredible to think that an actual like DA team that was growing up at a similar time as us, playing club or DA whatever, has players now that are generally speaking, if you were in the starting lineup of that team, you
Yeah.
went on to be a pro. Like that's ridiculous to think about.
And then with Dom saying either Spain or the championship, what do you think about the championship for Pepe? I think that's a bit.
I think we wouldn't see the same progression
Yeah.
in Pepe that we saw in Daryl DK
Yeah.
in the championship. Daryl DK,
very physical
yeah, I just don't see. I think Pepe's a very physical player, but I think he would like. I actually really favor that Ajax move for him.
Me too. Yeah.
I think Ajax or Bayern. I wouldn't really want to see him in the Serie A.
No, definitely not a lower Serie
Yeah.
A team,
Yeah. Championship is a rough place to go. Eli said exactly.
especially
I mean,
from the MLS.
yeah,
as
it's
well.
what's a tough one. I mean, like we did see Jordan Morris like immediately tear his ACL when he went
It's
to
true.
Swansea.
Swansea.
Wouldn't want the same luck for him. And yeah, Eli, you said especially for a kid. I just think like for the development side of things, I feel like the championship is more of a place where players who are getting older or not older, but like out of their like you are a young talented prospect and you're still not good enough to go to a top league, they kind of just go to the championship.
Or they're on loan from a top Premier League team.
But you see more guys on loan in League One and League Two than I think in the championship.
That's true.
I think there's a certain point when they're like, okay, this guy's doing well in League One or League Two, we're just gonna bring him up and we're gonna have him adapt.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to like that Derby team where it was Mount, Tamori,
Yeah,
Harry Wilson,
or when you
as
had
well.
Harvey Elliott playing for I can't remember what it was.
Blackburn.
Yeah, but it was Blackburn. Yeah. Dom said, didn't Ariel get injured in the championship? Did he?
Did he go to the championship?
I don't know. Dom, you'd have to tell me more about that one. Saying though it's unreal how good Bellingham did in League One as a 16-year-old. Yeah, well that's what I'm saying. I think that
It's true, yeah.
I think they tend to like have the top prospects go a little bit lower than championship because the championship's still good. It's a small step down. Well, it's not small, but it's a much smaller step down.
It's just a whole
from the
different
Premier
league, really.
Yeah, and I think when you go down to League One, the quality gets to be a little bit less, where you can have those young players really gain that confidence and shine. I think it's still really hard to succeed in the championship as a young player. Tom said, yeah, him and Jordan Morris went. I thought, I don't remember if Areola went. I know Jordan Morris did, and then immediately his time was kaput there, and now he's back in Seattle. But yeah, I mean, with regards to kind of just like wrapping up the Pepe discussion, like with regards to what happens to him, I think he'll definitely finish the MLS season.
Oh yeah, especially with how good he's playing. I think.
Yeah, I think he might even have two more.
Like playoffs as well.
I think he might even have two more in him.
Really?
Yeah,
I would not be surprised if he either signed or actually transferred in January after the.
Oh, you think he might sign a deal with like a Bayern or Ajax in the January transfer window, and then just go halfway. So that's right. That's what Caden did.
Yeah.
But that's so tough because then you're playing 18 months straight of football.
See, that's what I was saying. Maybe he signs with Bayern or Ajax,
and then he takes time off.
He has that off season until.
But then he hasn't double off season.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Maybe
it's
he
so
trains.
tough.
Maybe he trains with Bayern.
Yeah,
or something.
it's so
or
tough.
they're like U23s or something.
It's a really tough one to decide because you're either gonna put a ton of stress on your body, even though you're an 18-year-old. That's still really hard.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna be taking 6 months off of playing football, which even then it's like you're 18, you shouldn't take 6 months
Yeah.
off of game time. So yeah, that's a tough one. I don't really know what he would do. But I do completely see him finishing this year's MLS season. Getting that done.
Playoff run, maybe.
Yeah, and if he performs well in playoffs, I think he'll sign. Honestly, if he kind of flops in playoffs, which is possible, he might, not do that well in playoffs when everyone's watching. Which is completely possible. I think he could have a whole nother MLS season in him, and then he might move.
Yeah, but you also don't want to see those offers go away, Like, say he has a bad season, then the next MLS season.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, Daryl DK is not really getting the hype anymore.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean?
I think he should have left.
On this podcast, we were talking about him so often.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's so good right now in the championship. He's going to get signed to the Premier League. He's going to get promoted to the Premier League.
Exactly.
All this stuff. And then Barnsley. Barnsley didn't want to sign him for 20 mil, and now he's fallen off the face of the earth.
I mean, yeah, and, also you see they were in the playoffs.
Paul, I'm going to check that. I know you said FC Dallas won't reach the playoffs.
I thought they were doing well recently, at least. But with DK, say Barnsley do get promoted through the playoffs, he's probably signed to them and gets Premier League experience. And then Western Conference.
Oh, God, FC Dallas are not making it to the playoffs. Well,
but how many
10 points. They're 10 points off. Yeah, well, so how many games are left? Is it going to be a 36-game season? So Pepe has 7 games remaining. 5 games.
5 games remaining.
So it's a 34-game season. So if he has 5 games remaining, yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think hype will. If he's able to score in at least 3 out of those 5, the hype will stay.
Yeah. Or continue
blanks,
with this Panama and
Costa Rica. Yeah, if he does
Rica.
well against Panama and Costa Rica,
yeah,
he's sealed it. Because the other thing with Daryl DK is he didn't do that with the U.S. men's national team.
No, that's true.
But yeah, kind of moving away from the USMNT and specifically Ricardo Pepi, which is, on everyone's mind right now, and going to the other side of the ocean, or not the ocean, what would it be? The Pacific? No, that's the other side, the Atlantic, right?
No.
Pacific? Yeah, the Atlantic is separating the Europe and...
There you go.
Yeah, so it's it's the Atlantic.
The pond.
So going across the Atlantic,
yeah.
To Europe with the international break, they're obviously... I'm kind of confused, and considering, like Dom said earlier, the experts talk about it, it's kind of concerning that the experts don't know this, but I'm kind of confused at why there is the UEFA Nations League and World Cup qualifiers going on at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't really understand that.
What is the Nations League?
Well, the Nations League,
why is that a thing?
Right, so the Nations League was fine last year because there's nothing going on. You can't do anything during the international break. It's just friendlies. But now there's competitive games to decide who gets into the World Cup. Just cancel the Nations League.
Yeah,
in a year that you don't
exactly.
You don't need to fill it with anything.
Yeah, in a year where you have qualifiers, why are you playing another tournament?
That's just terrible to the players.
Especially after you had the Euros in the summer.
Yeah, it's stupid. Because everyone's like, oh, it's the Nations League. It's going to be better because then there's going to be a competition for people to play, and it's not just stupid friendlies where no one wants to watch them. So it's going to spice up the international break a little bit.
Even then, I had no idea the final was today.
No, that's fine because last year, every year there's a Nations League.
Yeah.
Right. So last year I was like, that was my excuse. It was okay, it's fine. There's nothing going on. It's not taking the place of anything. So it's okay. It's just giving us an extra competition. Maybe it's a little bit too much for the players, maybe not, but it's fun to watch because there's stuff going on that's intense. You don't need it anymore. No. It's not necessary. World Cup qualifiers
it would be fun. It would be fun the 2 other years where there isn't qualifiers or Euros.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, no, but so you have there's Euros qualifiers too.
Yeah.
But no one really cares about Euros qualifiers, if we're being honest. It's much less important.
No one's like, oh, I have to watch to see if this team gets in.
Exactly.
World Cup qualifiers, it's more, I guess, important, I'd say.
But what I'd say, right, you have the World Cup qualifiers and you have the Euros qualifiers, and then you have the Euros and the World Cup. And then, obviously in Central and South America and North America, it's a little different. You have Gold Cup and like CONCACAF Nations League
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But it's very similar. So you have those 2 tournaments and those 2 qualifiers. The qualifiers happen before the tournament, right? That whole year, don't do any other international stuff. Just qualify and then play at the tournament.
Yeah.
All the other time, the other 2 years you have in between each, like the year in between each, then do the UEFA Nations
Yeah,
League.
exactly.
You don't need to do it right now.
And like, okay, Dom, I would agree. He said, why don't they just take a month off to play international? I would agree, but I think also part of it is injuries, and it's like, oh, if that player is injured for that 1 month of international, and he's like their best player for that
Yeah.
international team, then it's not really fair. So I think that's probably why they don't do it all just in 1 month, even though that would make sense. 'Cause then
Well, no, it would make sense, but like at the
all
same
the
time,
teams are together for like
at the
that
same
whole
time, like you have that kind of like, I would say that they do that in the summer for the actual tournaments, but they don't want. I think it's more, other than injuries, it's also a hazard to the actual Premier League teams who have to be separated for a month, which is kind of like an off season in and of itself
Yeah.
during the middle of the Premier League.
Yeah.
Like clubs don't want to let their players leave for a month. You know, they're like, no, we have games surrounding. If they made that month, they'd have games surrounding the month, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't be given a preseason once they get back. So the clubs would be like, no, I'm not letting my players leave for a month. Versus when they say, oh, it's a week or it's a week and a half, and you're gonna have fixtures on both sides of it, so you're really only missing 1 match week. Then it's like, okay, well, I'll maybe let my players go for that time. And there's still, you can see FIFA and Premier League have arguments about should players be allowed to go due to COVID, due to
Yeah.
injuries, due to this or that. So it's kind of tough. Dom said also, is Nations League like automatic qualifications for the World Cup? I don't know, but if you have World Cup qualifiers, there's no need to make it automatic qualification.
Exactly.
Like the World Cup qualifiers are to qualify.
Also, in that case, wouldn't the U.S. be already qualified because they had the CONCACAF Nations League? So wouldn't that just, to be fair, wouldn't that just be a automatic qualification if you won that?
Exactly,
Like,
and we don't have that.
so I doubt it's
It
automatic.
wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
You can't give, because then you'd have to give.
You can't give
Well, then
one.
you'd have to give automatic qualification to AFCON and to
Yeah.
CAF Nations League and to European and to UEFA Nations League. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, and if they do that, it's not fair because we obviously won UEFA Nations League.
Well, also, doesn't Euros automatically
No,
qualify?
no.
Really?
Wait,
I thought it
okay.
does.
Look it up on your phone. I'll go through the rest of these comments. Paul said the Nations League should only exist to completely get rid of friendlies. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Paul.
why are there friendlies
the-
and Nations League
Well, no, yeah, and that's true.
at the same time?
During the time, right now, there's Nations League and World Cup qualifiers, and then like last year there was Nations League and friendlies. Like, no, just don't do friendlies anymore. Like, just choose one and then stick with it so that like people know what's going on and so that you're not playing pointless games. Nations League's pointless during World Cup qualifiers, and friendlies are pointless during Nations League. So it doesn't make any sense. And then Eli said it's so annoying that we only get like 3 or 4 match weeks in a row before a 2-week break. And then he said way too much international football. It's literally a break every month. I completely agree. But then you're going back to the like then you take a much bigger break. I just think they need to tone down international football. But then like it's hard because you either are like international football is really big when it comes to Euros and World Cup, and I mean for the other side of the pond when it comes to Gold Cup and stuff like that. So yes, it's really important, but I do think for friendlies and for Nations League and stuff, it's not really as important. People don't really care about it as much. It's not like that big of a deal. So people are more inclined to say I would prefer to watch club football, but then the argument becomes, well, then how are national teams supposed to be ready or continue to
if they
keep
never
chemistry
play.
if they only play when it matters? So it's a really tough one. There's just too much football. There's just too much of it. Like I don't.
That's true.
Like even like players like Busquets, you know, he had that interview and he was like, they just work us too much. They have us play so many games and they have no like. They have no precautions watching out for the players. It's all about the clubs making more money, the TV making more money, revenue, all this, you know. It's not, are the players able to sustain this? And then, like, I think I'm going off on a tangent right now, but, like, did you see Neymar's quote today?
No.
Right, so this is huge. Neymar says in an interview, right, I don't know who it was with, it was some magazine, he was in some, like, gray background with, like, a gray chair, you know, they had him sitting there all, like, dressed up and everything, but he was in some interview and they were like, how do you feel about the 2022 World Cup coming up? And he was like kind of tearing up a little bit. And he was like, I'm so excited and so happy to be able to represent my country because it's going to be the last time that I represent Brazil because I can't take football anymore. That's what he said. He literally said, I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this upcoming World Cup is probably...
It's Messi and Ronaldo's last. And if it's the last for Neymar too, you're losing 3 fantastic players, 2 GOATs. And Neymar, like, that would be a retirement that's fairly early. And I texted one of my good friends who's Brazilian. I know you know him as well. And I texted him the interview, and he was like, I mean, there's just too much pressure on the players to perform constantly. There's too many games. There's too much this, too much that. People need to tone down a little bit. Yeah,
I think just getting rid of something like the Nations League or just the random friendly breaks.
Exactly.
Or maybe not making them as frequent. Like, that would be fine. Because then...
I'd honestly be okay if they're like, this is... You know how American football does a bye week?
Yeah.
Like a bye week. Okay, we don't have to play, but just give the players a break.
True.
Like, just give them a break.
Like, why are they playing, like, twice as many games during the winter? Like, you know, that festive season or whatever? They play, like, every other day.
And Pedri played, like, 84 games in the calendar year.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Like, maybe for the holidays, give them a break instead of playing them twice as many times.
Exactly. I mean, I just think there needs to be more, like, precautions and rules in place to watch out for the players and their actual health. And there's so many more players that are opening up about that right now, and it just needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Paul said UEFA Nations League is just a Walmart version of the Euros. Yes, and it happens every year, so it just doesn't make sense. Like no one really cares.
Yeah.
No, like it's not that big of a deal to most people, and it's just hurting the players. The amount of games players are playing these days is unreal, especially with the Euros and Copa America this summer. Yeah, it's stupid. It's stupid, and the Olympics. Like,
yeah, true.
There's so much going on. It's just crazy. Dom said, "Wait, I think if you win the Nations League, you go to the Confederations Cup or something." Dom, I don't even know what the Confederations Cup is.
Isn't that like you play like a team from Asia or something, or like a different continent or something?
Oh yeah,
something like that.
It's just
either way.
It's like the Club World Cup. Why do we even do it anymore?
Either way. France came back from 2-0
Yeah, let's get back to the actual Nations League drama.
So, yesterday or the day before,
it was 2 days ago.
France came back from 2-0 to win 3-2 with Hernandez goal in the 90th minute.
Yeah. They were down 2-0 in the first half. Carrasco scored in the 37th.
De Bruyne had both assists.
Yeah, Carrasco in the 37th and Lukaku in the 40th. So, 2 really back-to-back goals, obviously.
2 first half. Yeah, 2-0 at half.
France obviously with a little bit of a lapse in concentration there, but then showing great character. Benzema scored in the 62nd, Mbappe scored a pen in the 68th, and then Hernandez obviously with a 90th minute winner to send them through to the Nations League final.
Yeah.
Great character.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think? I know there was some talk like.
So the final is today, by the way.
Yeah, the final is today between
like
Spain and France.
Yeah.
Do we think that it's kind of the end of that Belgium golden generation, and we'll see them because they are always ranked like number 1 on FIFA's rankings until the World Cup comes around.
Yeah, I don't know why they're always ranked like number 1.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Like. They've never like won.
they don't win it.
They don't win anything to like say, oh, in the past they've won. And then France are always like 5th. It's like what?
Yeah.
But yeah, Spain did beat Italy and stopped their winning streak, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had like a 30-game win streak.
Yeah, Italy and I believe Bonucci afterwards had an interview and he was like, it was actually good from him. He was like, I completely understand we got beaten fair and square, blah blah blah. But we're going to come back stronger and be a better Italy than anyone.
Win 60 games in a row.
Now we're going to double it. We're going for it. 60 games in a row. But yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting. That's happening in a few hours if you're live with us. And if you're not live with us, that will have happened. So very interested to see how that game pans out. And then moving over to the Premier League, which has obviously still been going on since, we last did a podcast. And we're just going to highlight one game, which I watched it, you watched it.
Yes,
Fantastic game. I mean, had everyone on the edge of their seat, even in the first half, but once the goals started coming in.
I didn't even watch the first half.
Well, you didn't need to. But I was watching the first half, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, and that was Liverpool versus Man City. Fantastic game.
Yeah. I mean, I told this to you, but, like, it reminded me of prime Liverpool City of, like, 2017. Mm-hmm. when they were the both two best teams in the world by far, and they were going head to head. Players on both sides were playing like they've never played before. That Salah goal was
It was unbelievable.
like that's if Messi would have done that,
dude, people would have been like goat, 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 goat.
And Salah just incredible cut inside out.
Well, did you see the little so he gets it, he like gets the ball,
rolls,
and he like shifts his body weight, and then Bernardo Silva comes flying in, and he does a cheeky little ball roll sidestep around him. I'm like, at that moment, I was like, oh, Salah's unreal, and then he just kept going.
And then Laporte takes him
on his back,
takes him on his left, and then cuts back to his right, down line, and then finishes
Laporte
far
got
post.
Sat down.
I mean, it looked like the Boateng Messi
it was
goal.
Incredible.
If Laporte would have fallen over, but I mean, you gotta say that's probably goal of the season.
I mean, Paul literally just said Salah's goal is one of the best I've ever seen in a very, very long time. Best winger in the Premier League history for me. I mean, that's bold considering.
I think best scoring winger by far.
Well, I mean, Thierry Henry was obviously a winger in the Premier League, and he was fantastic. And coming from you, Paul, I mean, you are an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're saying that, but Salah, he's got 9 right now in 6 games, and I mean, dude's gonna just keep.
Well,
going.
all the records he's breaking are with players like Shearer or Kane, who are strikers, and he's a winger, and he's scoring constantly, like 30 goals a season.
Eli said Hazard's goal versus Liverpool is better than Salah's versus Man City.
The one in the Carabao Cup. I think he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's debatable.
I think based on like importance, like that was a huge game. It was back and forth, and then Salah just pulls that out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But like the Chelsea Liverpool game was like a Carabao Cup game. It's like you don't like remember.
It's
really.
not this game. It had you on the edge of your seat the whole time. Obviously the first goal came from Sadio Mane in the 59th minute. It was a good goal as well.
Yeah, and Salah assisted it.
And,
yeah,
it was a great assist. It was a fantastic goal. And then Phil Foden, dude, Phil Foden's goal was so good.
Foden was as good for City as Salah was this game. Like Foden's goal.
I would argue that Salah had a better game.
But like Foden was their best player.
Yeah, Foden was City's best player, and that's saying something considering the quality that people brought in this game. I mean, it was
every player
insane.
Played very well. Like Foden's goal in the 69th minute that tied it up, and then you obviously had Salah's goal, and then Foden again breaks down the left, crosses it in, comes out to De Bruyne, deflected shot, 2-2. I thought there's gonna be like 4 more goals.
I did,
and
it was the exact opposite of KG. I mean, it was literally the ball was in the opponent's box. If you turned your TV off, and then you turned it back on, 5 seconds later it was in the other box.
Yeah,
I'm like, what is going on right now? Paul said Thierry Henry was a striker, not for his entirety of his career. He was a left winger, and then he moved to striker. And I don't just know that from FIFA. I've watched Thierry Henry documentaries. He did play on the wing, so he does count as a winger. Just like Ronaldo, early Man United days, was a winger. Now he's a striker.
Also, I'm like thinking back, Salah had that goal against Chelsea from way outside the box.
Oh God, so good.
Pinged it. It's
so
like,
good.
He can score 2 different types of goals.
How many times have you seen that goal come on your Instagram?
So many times.
Dude, I know it by heart. He gets the ball from the right side. He turns left foot, drills it. It looks like it's going to go over in the very beginning, but then just keeps driving into that top corner.
And like, he's a winger who can score both in a powerful shot from outside the box and dribble 3 players and score inside the box.
Yeah, I mean, he is dynamic. He's fast. He's smart. He's got an incredible shot, and he's got great feet.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you asked me what is Mohamed Salah's weakness, I'd be like, I don't know.
I mean, I said it's his right foot, but
he scored the goal with his right foot.
Exactly. So
what?
Who knows?
I mean, it's crazy. Paul said he's not counting on Henry as a winger in the Prem. I mean, well, yeah, if you say I'm not going to count a certain player, then yeah, maybe. Like, you could just count all the great wingers out and say Salah's the best in the Prem. But, I mean, I do agree that Salah is up there, and I think it depends on how this season goes. If he continues this form throughout the season, he has that 2017-18 season, and he has this season to go off of where, that other one where he scored like 45 goals.
Yeah.
I mean, then you say, okay, yeah, best winger in the Prem. Like, no doubt about it.
I think he's best goal-scoring winger. I think I would still probably say Hazard is the best. Like, just based on assists and goals and how he carried that Chelsea team
Yeah,
for so long. Like, Salah scores all of Liverpool's goals
pretty
mostly,
much.
but
Unless Jota
Hazard
just like
Hazard was like their whole attack, both assisting and scoring.
yeah.
And I just like how Hazard played more than Salah.
Hazard was fantastic.
Yeah.
Hazard was. It's kind of like Hazard was on another level, but it's kind of like Alexis Sanchez when he was with Arsenal.
Yes.
Just great player.
Yeah.
Great player. And then Paul said also the Salah goal against Everton that won the Puskas. I mean, like we're saying,
I mean, that's a
Just-
similar goal, yeah.
just a fantastic player.
Yeah.
Like he's got so many examples of him
The
showing
Watford
class.
one where he sat literally like
Yeah.
5 players down.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Eli, we will touch on that actually in a second. We can actually move over to that right now, because I do think that is definitely something that we should be touching on. And that is, I don't actually know how to pronounce it. Is it? Do you think it's Gavi? Because it's not like Xavi.
No.
It's like a G. It's like Javi maybe. I don't know, but. Gavi, Gavi. He started for Spain against Italy, and it's funny. He said Marco Verratti was like his idol growing up, and still is like his idol. And he played against Marco Verratti against Italy,
Yeah.
and absolutely ran circles around
Yeah,
him.
he
Like
did.
literally showed pure class
Yeah.
coming from an 18-year-old. Literally, like incredible stuff.
Like, do you think we're seeing more 18-year-olds playing at that level, or
Jude Bellingham.
are we just noticing it more? Like,
No, we're seeing more, definitely. But I think there's more emphasis on
bringing younger players
bringing
up.
youth
Yeah.
into the first team and giving them opportunity
Like-
than there was 10, even 15 years ago.
Like, Mbappe moved to PSG when he was 18 or whatever.
I think he was
19.
Yeah, no, he was 18 because he was
Because he had
18
the
in the World Cup.
Yeah, and he had the 17-year-old season at
Monaco.
Monaco, which gave him the move. And then Haaland, obviously, he's like 22 now or something, but still, he was young when he emerged. And then Pedri as well, another Spanish
Yeah, well,
midfielder.
and Pedri, and then you have Moriba, and then you have Ansu Fati. I mean, you've got. I mean, all of them came from Barca.
Yeah.
If we're being honest,
It's true.
Barca is creating
Yeah.
the future of Spain.
Yeah.
But they have fantastic youth coming
Mm.
up. Obviously PK is aging out, and that's hard for Spain. Because you don't really see that next emerging great Spain center back that's coming up. You know, when Carlos Puyol was aging out with Spain, you had PK coming in.
Mm-hmm.
PK was fantastic during that time. They even partnered for a little bit. And you had Ramos, who was around at that time. I think that is what Spain's lacking, that really good center back, to be able to
Because
to help them
they had that
defensively.
Ramos PK
Ramos,
for so
PK.
long.
Well, they had the Puyol,
Yeah.
and then the Puyol, Ramos,
Jordi
Puyol,
Alba.
PK, and then they switched to Ramos, PK, and then they had Jordi Alba, like
Yeah.
you say. You know, they had a fantastic
Carvajal was
they,
good.
They had a
and
fantastic
yeah.
back line to build off of, and
De Gea.
they're kind of missing that. Yeah, you can go on and on.
yeah.
Obviously, Rob Sanchez will replace that.
Yeah, I feel
Just,
like
just
that's true. It's true. I feel like they've moved from very solid backline, and now I think, well, obviously they had Iniesta.
yeah,
and
we had
Xavi,
Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets.
but like I
they
feel
were
like,
fantastic.
but I feel
They're
like
never gonna get that good. Again.
they're always gonna have like very decent players everywhere. But now I feel like
The midfield
their
is
main,
strong.
yeah. But they never like
They never had four. They had-
attacking
they had-
wise.
no, they
Fernando
had Fernando
Torres,
Torres, and they had
but he was
David
always
Villa.
yeah.
Dude, they were so good.
Yeah.
Just
That-
reminiscing on 2010 Spain.
That 2010
It's
Spain.
just ridiculous.
Yeah.
They were so good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. Eli or Paul said Hazard had an entire season off at Chelsea. Salah has hardly had a game off at Liverpool. I mean,
Well, if he had an injury, is he talking about his
no, he's
injury?
probably talking about like how
He had an off season.
yeah, an off season, and that's true. But Hazard played at Chelsea much longer.
Yeah.
Like
He
you have
played
to
since
wait.
like 20.
You have to wait because
13 or
you don't
something.
know. Like you have to. Salah has to continually perform at the rate he is right now, not having off games for as long as or longer than Hazard to make that point arguable because he hasn't yet.
And also, like, just thinking back to how Hazard plays, like, yeah, he can dribble the whole team like Salah does, but I don't think of Salah as a player who can attract all those players and then find that insane pass. where Hazard could do that, for me at least.
Yeah,
Like remembering.
exactly. And then moving over to the Spain thing again, Eli said, I don't know if Barca can hold on to these young kids with their financial problems.
It's true.
I do think that
Or they
might
just
be a
play their
struggle.
U23 team.
I mean, they wouldn't do horrible.
No.
They'd be okay. And then Dom said Pedri and Gavi will be the new Xavi Iniesta. I mean, that's a very bold claim. It's hard to say that they will be the new Xavi Iniesta, considering I think Xavi and Iniesta are the two best midfielders like ever to live.
I mean, how does that pairing both match with their nationality and their club?
It is kind of crazy.
Like, how is that even like? Yeah, you could think of like insane, like Pirlo.
But it does show that like the system that they develop kids in at La Masia is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's so good.
But like, you think those two players on their own are two of the best midfielders of all time, and to have them play in the same club and nationality, it's like, what are the chances? Like, you could say, oh, Pirlo and Gerrard, but they never played together. Like, those two play together all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have that whole class of '92, right, with like Scolzi and Steven Gerrard and Lampard. I mean, I don't think Gerrard and Lampard were in the class of '92, but because they were at Manchester United. But like, you have that like era.
Yeah.
With those guys.
Like, well, Roy Keane and Scholes, right?
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about.
Well, I'm talking about just generally speaking, that era. You have like people coming in of the same nationality, but you're not the same club.
Yeah.
So clearly there was a English flood in developing midfielders during that time that were world class, but there is a Barca, there's a systemic way that they're able to develop midfielders and good awareness and passers and tacticians at La Masia that no one else has.
Yeah.
There's no one. I don't know what else. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just ridiculous.
We can finish. That's actually a great point, Paul. About the Newcastle takeover.
Yes, we do need to talk about the Newcastle takeover.
Just to finish up.
Who do you think they might bring in as a manager? Or do you think they're going to keep Steve Bruce?
Something tells me the owners aren't huge fans of.
Let's first recap what happened. If you don't know, Newcastle United. It's been rumored for a while that this Saudi buyer was going to take over.
For like years
Newcastle
now.
United, and it finally happened this past week, which means that Newcastle United are now the most expensive, or have the highest net worth of owners that any club in the world has. That being said, you don't know how much money the owners are going to put into it, but if
you're buying a team that bad, like you're gonna have to invest a lot.
Oh, you're gonna
if you want to make money.
Yeah, you're gonna. And so I do think Newcastle will have kind of a resurgence. But if I'm being honest, I was thinking about it. I think that they'll end up signing Andre Villas-Boas.
Really?
Yes, that is my personal.
It's not gonna be an English manager.
Oh, no chance.
Like, just
they're gonna sign someone big. Pep's not gonna go. There's no chance Pep's gonna go.
Okay, Pep would never go somewhere
unless
else
they're like, unless they show him the money and they say, well, there's a chance you could have this transfer budget. The thing is, I mean, Newcastle's gonna have a hard time with financial fair play, because financial fair play regulates how much you can buy based on how much you bring in, and they don't bring in that much money, so they're gonna be. Like, if they sign anyone, they're going to be breaking financial fair play regulations.
I mean, the one thing I was looking at, just to finish up, was like, God, that are Sunderland and Newcastle ever going to play a derby ever again? Because Sunderland are at the
in the mud.
Lowest ever point, like, in their club, and then Newcastle just got new owners.
Yeah.
Who, like,
it's like, I'm going to look up the actual numbers. Net worth of Newcastle owner. Because it's ridiculous.
320
billion. So right, I think the numbers were like Man City and PSG were like the next two highest
with 23.3.
Yeah, so essentially you are multiplying
by 10.
Man City's 10. By 100. No, by 10.
By 11.
You're multiplying Man City's net worth by 11 times. And Man City are ridiculously wealthy.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Like, now...
Oil money is not right.
Based on, like, relativity, like, the Newcastle owners could then invest $23.3 billion into Newcastle for a transfer budget. Just, like, based on how much Man City did for them.
They just
Like-
they just signed like everyone.
Yeah, honestly.
Paul said rumors are that Newcastle's first signing will be James Sarkowski.
Great signing.
I mean, like, that's something I could see realistically happening because it's like no one's gonna allow them to like break financial fair play and spend like $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. So they're gonna have to be smart about it, and it's gonna be a slow rebuild.
Yeah.
But I think a manager, you can splash the cash on a manager. They're gonna sign like Andre Villas-Boas for like $50 million a year.
Yeah, I think the only change that would happen in January would be a manager.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll sign anyone.
And if they did, it would be like a James Sarkowski.
No, yeah, it
they're
wouldn't
not
be anyone.
signing Mbappe in January like everyone thinks.
The summer though,
Oh,
it might be
gosh.
crazy.
It might be ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to keep tabs on that and see how that progresses. Obviously, we don't really have any more information on that. It's just predictions. No, there's not really any possible way to
The
tell.
owners aren't going to come out and say this is the list of players we want to sign.
We're just gonna have to see it as it happens, and either it's gonna be mayhem or it's gonna be good, or it's going to be like nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I mean that there's a possibility that nothing happens to Newcastle. And Steve Bruce continues managing Alan St. Maximin. I saw this like hilarious meme, and it was like Alan St. Maximin when Mbappe and Messi walk in the door, and then it was like him running. But yeah, we should close it out with what's been happening in fantasy. I don't actually have my phone.
Oh well, we posted,
Oh yeah, that's true. So we did.
so
post last week.
nothing's really changed.
Yeah, that's true.
If you go to our Instagram,
We did post. That's true. Yeah. So go to head over to our Instagram if you want to see our old fantasy teams. Nothing's really changed. But yeah, I think that concludes this week's pod. Just going through the last few comments. God, there's a lot I have to read. Newcastle takeover could be good for Barcelona if they want a statement signing Coutinho and Ousmane Dembele are available and Barcelona sell. Yeah, I mean, I don't, like I said, Paul, I don't really think they're going to be able to sign that many players because they're going to break FFP pretty quickly. Eli said I don't rate either of those signings. They need to look at how City did their rebuild. Yeah, you have to be slow about it. You can't just like buy everyone.
City
right
were
away.
not good when Pep first came. First year.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, you have to do it. And they were better than Newcastle. So the rebuild's going to take a while. They spent so much money on their players that never turned out. I think they need to sign some PL experienced players to make sure their first years aren't a disaster. Yeah, I completely agree. What if Newcastle go all out for Conte? That's also a possibility. I think it's between like Villas-Boas. I think they're gonna try for Conte, and they're not gonna get him because, like, realistically, like people aren't gonna want to manage Newcastle. Like,
No.
even if you show them that you have
Yeah.
a fat check, they're not gonna want to manage Newcastle because you're gonna be walking into
Maybe
a
in like
disastrous
5
club.
years. Yeah, 5 years when they have a
Exactly. Just
rebuild.
give Steve Bruce the check.
Yeah.
Eli said once they get consistency, they should go for bigger players, but that's like 3 or 4 years. in the
Exactly.
future. Yeah, that's what we're saying. And like once they get consistency, they'll generate more revenue. Then they'll have an easier time with FFP. And I keep going back to that, but like they will end up with a court like case if they don't watch out with FFP. And then Paul said rumors are. Oh yeah, we already talked about that. Dom said Lenny with the maths. Thank you. Exactly. I dropped to 6 from 3rd. Oh, Dom, that's tough. That is so tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll go over the draft league again next week. And Paul, for popular demand, we will also do a quiz next week. So make sure you come back for that. No quiz this week because I mean this was a great pod.
It was.
We did talk about a lot. But no quiz this week. But we'll get you guys interacting and all that next week. So make sure you join us next week. We'll go on Sunday again. Hopefully, the SPA soccer team is continuing to play next week on Sunday. We have a game on Thursday in sections, so hopefully we win that. But yeah, we will see you guys next week. So until then, have a good time. Enjoy the Nations League final today, and peace.